Hello, this is Abel, and I'm going to speak about my first ever D&D campaign, and also my first ever D&D playing and DMing. It was just my first ever D&D experience. And why do I say it's a horror story as well as a glory story? Because I was such a newbie, and my players were such newbies. It was actually very bad sometimes, but the most important thing is we never stopped having fun. We always had fun. It was a very fun thing. I wouldn't change it for anything. It just served us to make a lot of experience for me and to bond with my players. Now we're doing another campaign, the same players, and it's amazing. And I'm already a good DM. I mean, that's what my players say, and I'm proud to make them happy with my games. But yet, that first game was pretty bad. So I'm gonna tell the story. First of all, how did it happen? What was the idea? Well, we were speaking about something that we could imagine, and we thought, what if we created a story? And what if we played it in an RPG? TTRPG. We had no experience, but it was so cool to think about. So we thought about a setting that consisted in the Renaissance period, with vampires, with assassins, with mafias, that kind of thing. That was pretty much the pattern. It was very simple. It was very open. We had no DM and we had no experience, but I stepped up. I decided that I could try, and it was bad at the beginning but very good at the end. And then we started playing. First of all, what was my role at the beginning? Well, I didn't make any world building, like none of it. I kind of thought of a map but I didn't draw it, and it was just a city with a mafia that was a good mafia, and a government that was corrupt because it was full of vampires. And the players would have to ally with the mafia and try to beat the vampires. I don't know how to say it. That simple premise. From then on, I tried to make something complex. I didn't really succeed at that. But let's start with the players. The players were 1. The pirate boss, the pirate captain, played by my girlfriend. Her name was Agnodice, and she was a high elf ranger. Then there was Guido, and a dwarf barbarian, totem barbarian, played by my brother, the most excelling player in the group. Nobody knew how to play, but he just put a lot of effort in it and a lot of roleplay. It was very good. The others were good too, but just were so much more of a newbie. The next character was Ori, also a pirate, accompanying Agnodice and Guido. They came to the city in order to get a job and get money, but they found the city was deserted and it was really messed up. So they found a little fight with some crazy rats, like demonic possessed rats, kind of vampire rats, giant vampire rats. They fought them and they found 2 more players. One was a dragonborn fighter. The other was a human rogue. And the new one said, hey, let's meet the mafia boss, and we all together can help to beat the problem with these rats, and maybe find out what's happening in the town. They all were fine, they'll pay us, I guess. So they went and met the last player, Leonardo, which was a half-elf cleric. Another crazy good role player at the end of the campaign, although at the beginning he was very nervous. So, the campaign just kicked off. They went and fought some rats in the sewers. There was a very unbalanced and very boring fight, but it was still cool. They found some crazy magic door that didn't show up until the end of the campaign again. Then they found a letter, and then they found another letter. Those letters just led them to another mission, and pretty cool stuff. They found out about 2 corrupt politicians that could be cool to beat. They didn't know if they were vampires, but they for sure knew they were bad because they were like buying slaves and stuff. So the 5 players, there were 5 because Ori never showed up again, but well, we love him still. So the 5 players already knew some politicians and something to unfold. They met like 3 NPCs because I didn't have a lot of imagination and I didn't have a lot of world building. They met just 3 NPCs that showed them around, gave them missions and gave them kind of some equipment, some magic items, but simple stuff. They started at level 1 and they were already by level 3. Then they traveled and they got a very long I don't know how to say it, a very long side quest about rescuing 3 goblins, which were their best friends ever from then on. Their names were Trompicón, Trufo y Tres en Burro. That's my Spanish bad speaking. And they went and killed the first boss I've ever made. It was a vampire spawn with a big armor and a big companion too. They were like police chiefs, obviously corrupt, and I wouldn't wanted them to fight them at the house of the police, but it would have been dangerous. It would have made no sense. So they told me, hey, I don't want to go to the police place. I don't really remember the name of that place. Sorry, my English is terrible. And that's when I knew as a DM that I really had to have an open mind and have some world building. The game couldn't be so linear. My game, up until then, was crazy linear and crazy railroady. It was just a railroad. It was cool, they liked it because they were newbies, but I had to step up my DMing, and I think I did it. So they killed the boss. It was tense, it was cool, and after a couple more missions, we were level 5, well, my players were level 5, after like 10 or 15 sessions, and I thought, man, the world building that I did was very lacking, the campaign has been very linear, and now I don't really know what to do. I had kind of a mental breakdown there. I just didn't know if I was a good DM or what. So I decided I needed to wrap up the campaign as soon as possible. This campaign, I wanted it to last years, but it wouldn't have made sense. So I decided, people, you just discover the existence of a crazy magic item. You just have to go and find it. It's in 3 parts, 3 separate missions. You go and you find it, and you break the curse and the seal that guarded the castle. You enter the castle and you kill the vampire. It was a very obvious mission, but well, it was also a cliché, of course, but I decided that kind of simplistic quest is the key to a good D&D campaign. The key to being a good DM is setting a simple line of events that could happen, just that simple stuff, and a good world building. If the world building is good, the players are going to catch that plot points, that plot twists, and they're going to do whatever they want with them. It's going to be cool, and my job needs to be a little more of world building and improvisation. I decided to give them those 3 missions. I let them travel there, which was a long trip by boat, by ship, by pirate ship. And they got there. They got there. They did their quest. It was cool. It was better than I had ever done back then. They found these magic items. They leveled up a bunch. I mean, they went from level 5 to level 8 very, very fast. I made some amazing dungeon, an amazing boss fight. I mean, amazing for what I had done before. In comparison, it was still pretty lackluster if you compare me with a module made by a professional, but they were cool. My players really loved them. It was the first time I saw them scream in excitement. It was great. So they met the vampire. The vampire was already chasing them. Curse of Strahd inspired, let's say. One vampire called Irina was constantly harassing them, but this vampire didn't expect that the players had this magic item that let them break into the castle and fight them with a lot of radiant damage. I just gave them a bunch of silver weapons and radiant damage, and so even though they were level 8 and the vampire's challenge rating 13, they just messed the vampire up. They went through the whole castle, which was a cool dungeon, and they found the vampire king, and there I made a kind of a plot twist, because the vampire king completed his ritual to resuscitate Nosferatu via killing himself, and the ritual really failed, but there was a giant rat dragon mutation that they had to fight, and it was the final boss, and it was so cool. I roleplayed the whole city cheering for them. They felt powerful, and this is a very simple way of describing my campaign. There was a lot to do in like 20 to 30 sessions. A lot of things happened, and I can tell some stories in the future in a more particular way. But what I wanted to do today was just to talk about my experience as a DM, like starting from scratch. I really fell in love with role-playing games and with D&D 5e. I made a lot of drawings. I taught my players how to do stuff, like their sheets, their abilities, and stuff. I bought some books. I designed a little battle mat and a little token for every character. And also, I really spent very little money in my stuff, in my D&D first experience, like 30 sessions, and I really didn't spend a lot of money. Even I didn't spend almost anything. So nobody really has to buy a lot of books and a lot of resources and stuff. Just get in a good group with your good friends and just let it flow. It will flow. D&D, and more particularly DMing, has been my biggest hobby for the last year and a half, pretty much. So I'm gonna be talking a lot about D&D in this channel. So again, the horror story is how bad of a DM I was. I'm gonna be talking more particularly about some things. But the glory story is how we all had fun. And how now I'm DMing the second campaign. It's pretty much a sequel. Like 100 years later, some of the things that happened have some consequences, and pretty much the descendants of the old players had to face these consequences. and it is a much better campaign. Why is it? Did I make such a better world building? Like I say, not really. I don't need to make a great world building in my type of campaign. What I now do, and this is also part of the glory story, is a One Piece inspired story. Everything I have in terms of world building is a pantheon, some gods with some principles and stuff, then a map and a route. My players have a good excuse to follow a route, I don't know how to say it, to follow a route around the sea and find stuff, fight stuff, and they have a clear objective, and it's simplistic, just as One Piece. Now it's very complex because it's gone like 5,000 episodes, but at first it was simplistic. It was going from one point to another, meeting stuff, completing let's say a ranking or a hierarchy of pirates, even like a pantheon, know things, build things little by little. And what I want to advise, the piece of advice that I have in this video is go simplistic. It's going to be better in your first campaign. Don't take yourself so seriously. You can't try to be like Tolkien writing Lord of the Rings. You can't. But just go step by step, love what you do, have fun with your friends, and it's great. Now, thank you for listening.